Orphans don't wear white, it's for real family. The words hit me like a slap across the face, echoing through the pristine bridal boutique on Madison Avenue. 12 strangers turned to stare. My fiancé, Derek, suddenly found the carpet pattern fascinating. And me? I stood there in a $14,000 Vera Wang gown, feeling like a little girl again. The one who used to press her nose against foster home windows, wondering if anyone would ever want her. But here's the thing about orphans. We learn to survive. My name is Vivian Ashford. I'm 32 years old. And in exactly 47 hours, Derek's mother, Constance Whitmore, would learn what happens when you humiliate a woman who signs merger agreements worth more than her husband's entire law firm. But let me start from the beginning. I met Derek at a charity gala 18 months ago. He was charming, attentive, and came from what he called old money. The kind of family that had summer homes in the Hamptons and winter retreats in Aspen. He didn't know what I did for work beyond something in finance. And I preferred it that way. When you grow up with nothing, you learn that people treat you differently when they know you have something. His mother, Constance, had been cold from our first meeting. She'd asked about my family over dinner at their Connecticut estate, and when I quietly explained that I'd grown up in foster care, her smile had frozen like a mask. "How unfortunate," she'd said, then spent the rest of the evening talking about the importance of lineage and proper breeding. Derek had apologized later. "She's traditional," he'd said. "She'll warm up." She didn't warm up. The bridal appointment had been her idea, a bonding experience for the women of the family. Derek's sister, Tabitha, was there with her pinched face and designer handbag. His Aunt Margot kept making comments about how brave it was for Derek to marry someone without connections. And Constance? Constance was in her element, orchestrating the humiliation like a symphony conductor. "Try this one," she'd said, holding up a cream-colored dress. "White is really for brides whose families will be sitting on both sides of the aisle. Since you have no one, perhaps something less traditional would be appropriate." I'd ignored her, choosing the white Vera Wang instead. It was stunning, hand-sewn Italian lace, a cathedral train, delicate pearl beading along the bodice. When I stepped out of the dressing room, even Tabitha's jaw dropped. That's when Constance said it. "Orphans don't wear white, it's for real family." She announced it loudly enough that the entire store heard. The sales associates froze. An elderly woman by the veil display gasped. And Derek, my fiancé, the man who was supposed to defend me, looked at the floor and said nothing. "Derek," I said quietly. He cleared his throat. "Mom, maybe we should." "What?" "Tell the truth." Constance laughed. "Sweetheart, I'm trying to help her. She doesn't understand how these things work. Our family has standards. The Whitmore name means something in this city. We can't have photographs circulating of Derek's bride looking like she belongs at a society wedding when everyone will know she came from nowhere." I looked at Derek. He was still staring at the floor. "Okay," I said. Constance blinked. "Okay, you're right. I don't belong in white." I smiled, the smile I use in boardrooms when someone underestimates me. "I'll change." I walked back into the dressing room, carefully removed the beautiful gown, and put on my clothes. My hands were steady. My breathing was calm. I'd survived worse than Constance Whitmore. I'd survived being abandoned as a newborn. I'd survived 7 foster homes before I was 12. I'd survived putting myself through college on scholarships and 3 jobs. I'd survived building a career in a male-dominated industry where people constantly told me I didn't belong. When I came out, I handed the dress to the sales associate, a young woman named Miranda who looked like she wanted to cry on my behalf. "Thank you for your time," I said. "Vivian, wait." Derek finally found his voice. "I'll see you at home." I didn't look back. That night, Derek came home full of apologies. His mother didn't mean it that way. She was just stressed about the wedding. She was worried about what people would think. He'd talk to her. Things would be different. I listened quietly. I nodded at the right moments. And when he fell asleep, I went to my home office and opened my laptop. See, there was something Derek and his family didn't know about me. Something I'd kept private because I'd wanted someone, just once, to love me for who I was, not what I had. I wasn't just in finance. I was Vivian Ashford, CEO and majority shareholder of Ashford Capital Partners, one of the most powerful private equity firms on Wall Street. We managed over $47 billion in assets. Fortune had called me the silent titan in a profile last year. Silent because I avoided publicity, preferring to let our results speak for themselves. And one of our current acquisitions? A little merger that had been in the works for 8 months. The target company was a mid-sized law firm looking to expand into international markets. The firm was called Whitmore and Associates, Derek's father's firm. The merger was worth $180 million. It would have tripled their revenue and established them as a major player in cross-border litigation. Harold Whitmore had been celebrating for weeks. He'd already hired new partners. He'd already promised Constance a villa in Tuscany. At 6:47 the next morning, I sent a single email to my head of acquisitions. Pull us from the Whitmore and Associates merger. Effective immediately. No explanation required. By 9 a.m., the financial world was buzzing. By 10 a.m., Whitmore and Associates stock had dropped 34%. By noon, Harold Whitmore had received calls from 3 nervous partners asking if they should update their resumes. I was in a meeting when my assistant knocked on the conference room door. Ms. Ashford? There's a Derek Whitmore in the lobby. He says it's urgent. The 7 executives around the table exchanged glances. They knew who Derek was to me. They also knew, because everyone in finance knew by now, what had happened to his father's firm. Send him up. Derek walked into my corner office on the 47th floor of the Ashford Tower. Yes, the building was named after me, and stopped dead. He looked at the wall of windows overlooking Manhattan. He looked at the original Basquiat hanging behind my desk. He looked at the nameplate on my door that read Vivian Ashford, Chief Executive Officer. What is this? He whispered. My office. Please sit down. You're. He couldn't finish the sentence. The orphan from nowhere? I leaned back in my chair. Yes. Also the woman who just pulled a $180 million lifeline from your father's sinking firm. Derek's face went pale. Vivian, please. My father. This will destroy him. He's already had calls from partners threatening to leave. The Hendersons are backing out of their retainer. Everything he's built. Everything he built with his prestigious family name and his advantaged upbringing. I kept my voice calm. How unfortunate. He flinched at his mother's word. I didn't know, he said. About any of this. About who you really are. I'm exactly who I always was. The woman who grew up with nothing. The woman your mother publicly humiliated in front of strangers. The woman you refused to defend. I stood up and walked to the window. I wanted someone to love me without knowing my net worth. I wanted to know if I was enough just as a person. I got my answer yesterday in that bridal shop. I love you, Vivian. That hasn't changed. But your silence spoke louder than any words ever could. I turned to face him. When your mother told an entire store that I wasn't worthy of wearing white, you looked at the floor. You let her diminish me. You let her make me feel like that abandoned little girl all over again. And you said nothing. Derek's eyes were wet. What can I do? What do you want me to do? Nothing. I removed the engagement ring from my finger and set it on my desk. The wedding is off. My legal team will handle the dissolution of our shared accounts. You'll find the paperwork fair. And my father's firm? We'll have to find another savior. Perhaps your mother can charm one at the next country club luncheon. I pressed the intercom. Security will escort you out. Goodbye, Derek. He left without another word. I watched through my window as he emerged onto the street 47 floors below, a small figure disappearing into the crowd of Manhattan pedestrians. My phone buzzed. A text from my assistant. Constance Whitmore is in the lobby. She's demanding to see whoever is in charge. I smiled. Send her up. The elevator doors opened 3 minutes later. Constance stormed out, her designer heels clicking against the marble floor, her face twisted with fury. She was so focused on finding someone to scream at that she didn't notice me standing by the reception desk until she was 10 feet away. You. She stopped dead. What are you doing here? I work here. I gestured to the letters on the wall behind me. Ashford Capital Partners. Actually, I own here. The color drained from her face as the reality settled in. Her mouth opened and closed several times. Behind her, I noticed 3 of my senior partners had stopped to watch, along with a dozen other employees. That's not possible, she whispered. You're nobody. You're an orphan. I am an orphan, I agreed. I'm also the CEO of a $47 billion firm, a self-made billionaire, and until about 20 minutes ago, your future daughter-in-law. But you're right about one thing. I don't belong in white. I stepped closer. White is for people who need to prove their purity. I don't need to prove anything to anyone anymore. The merger, she stammered. You have to reconsider. Harold's firm, our reputation, everything we've worked for. Came from your lineage and your family name, yes. How unfortunate that those things can't save you now. I straightened my jacket. Here's what's going to happen, Constance. You're going to walk out of this building. You're going to go home to your husband and explain why his firm lost its biggest opportunity. And for the rest of your life, every time you attend a charity gala or a country club dinner, you'll wonder how many people in the room know that you were brought low by an orphan from nowhere. Her lips trembled. Please. I'll apologize. I'll do whatever you want. I wanted your son to defend me. I wanted to be treated with basic human dignity. But you couldn't give me that when I was nobody, so I'm certainly not going to accept it now that you know I'm someone. I nodded to security. Please escort Mrs. Whitmore out. As security guided her toward the elevator, Constance turned back one last time. Tears were streaming down her face, ruining her perfect makeup. You're making a mistake, she said. You'll regret this. Maybe. I smiled. But I'll regret it in my penthouse overlooking Central Park, wearing whatever color I want. The elevator doors closed. That evening, I sat alone in my apartment, the one Derek had never seen because I'd always stayed at his place to maintain my privacy. I poured a glass of wine and stood by the windows, watching the city lights flicker to life across Manhattan. My phone buzzed. A text from Miranda, the young sales associate from the bridal shop. I saw the news. I just wanted to say, you were the most beautiful bride I've ever seen in that dress. Some people's worth can't be measured by family trees. Thank you for showing me that. I typed back, thank you. That means more than you know. 3 months later, I wore white to the Fortune 500 gala, a stunning gown that cost twice what the Vera Wang had. I walked in alone, and I walked out alone, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like that abandoned little girl pressing her nose against the window. I felt like exactly who I was, Vivian Ashford, the orphan from nowhere who had built an empire, torn one down, and learned that some families aren't worth joining, and some battles aren't worth fighting. Some are worth winning. The last I heard, Whitmore and Associates had filed for restructuring. Derek had moved to Boston to work at a smaller firm. And Constance? Constance had quietly resigned from 3 charity boards after the story made the rounds at her country club. Apparently, nobody wanted to sit next to the woman who'd been publicly humbled by an orphan. As for me, I donated $5 million to the foster care system that raised me. I established a scholarship fund for kids who aged out without families. And every year on Thanksgiving, I host a dinner at my penthouse for former foster youth who have nowhere else to go. We wear whatever colors we want, and we belong.